It's been a year where you've sort of been searching for numbers at times. Have you got extra to think about this week? How many more can you think about this week compared to last week?
Not too many more. No, not too many more as far as numbers. But we're probably for a little while we haven't had to make too many adjustments to the numbers we had last week.
So who comes through training today onto your whiteboard? Dersma?
Yeah, Dersma, certainly those type of players. No, Bergman unfortunately is ill, so he's away. So as I said, not too many more numbers, but we've got the same people who were available almost last week to continue to pick from, which is also a bit better because we actually had a few more play in the Magpies, which helps us.
So how many will you carry up to Cairns? It's a long distance.
Yeah, we'll take 26. Based on the fact that it is a bit further away and we can't take them in, or get them in there in a little quick trip. So we'll take a few extras just to be sure. So we'll manage that the best we can.
So it's leave today, stop in Sydney?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. So it's an unusual flight plan, but it's a plan that we can cope with.
It's quicker to go to China.
Not now.
Ken, Gray and Aaliyah, a bit of doubt after they were a bit sore last week, but they're okay?
Yeah, no, look, we hope they're both fine. I mean, particularly Aaliyah, I'm pretty confident to say that he'll be able to. Rob, we're a bit early, we haven't trained yet, but we expect Robbie to do some straight line running today, and that will pass him off to get on the plane.
And Jonas?
Yeah, Tom's fine. He's been, like everyone, what are we up to, round 7 or something, a bit banged at times, but Tommy's pretty strong.
So how much do you factor in conditions up there, even though the forecast is that showers in the morning and getting fine, but it'll be warm, humid?
Yeah, we've got some good experience from being up there. So we've got Luke and Monty, myself, and a number of our staff have actually been up there and been through games 2 or 3 times. So the reality is that they're normally not a very high-scoring game up in Cairns. It's it's about a 70-point scoring margin what teams get on. So it's probably going to be a genuinely contested style of football that we played up there, and St Kilda in really good form, and we know what to expect.
Have you noticed, I guess, a big change in morale or any change in morale now that you got the first win for the season?
No, not so much change of morale. I think the club and the group have been really upbeat in some ways. I get it that we haven't been winning, but the win certainly helps. Don't get me wrong; it certainly doesn't hurt to get on the board, and we expected to be there a lot earlier than we are. But I think the one thing I've been most pleased about is the mood of the group as far as trying to keep turning things around, and they've done that really well.
Is that because of all the work you've done the last, I guess, 2-3 years in that connection space?
Yeah, we'd like to think so. Yeah, we'd absolutely like to think so. We spent a lot of time in making sure that the group realise that the value of the person is really significant, not just by winning and losing. Get it? We're in the winning and losing business, but we try to make them feel as if they're quite valuable anyway.
Can the quality?
Bit of a turn the corner with your form, though?
Oh, look, we've had 6 quarters where we've been much more pleased with the way we've gone about it, so that gives us some confidence to say, yeah, we're heading in the right direction. We understand the challenge that we come up against this week, though, and but every week the challenges are not much different. They're all competitions proving again and again, isn't it, that whatever happens, you've just got to be at your best. Otherwise, the corner that you feel like you might have turned doesn't count once we start on Saturday night.
So can we accept the quality of the opposition is going to be vastly different to West Coast? Where do you find yourself needing to deal with the challenges St Kilda brings?
Oh, well, they've, as you talked about before, they've got some confidence as a team, and they're really, working well together. And ultimately, that's what the good teams in the AFL do. They work really strongly together. They don't rely on 1 or 2 pieces. They rely on the whole team, and that's what we've been over the last couple of years ourselves. But we haven't quite been there this year. But we know the challenge of St Kilda is the whole team, and we've just got to be up for the battle.
Are you surprised at how well, I guess, they're going this year after last year? Were pretty disappointing? No,
not at all. I mean, they had a disappointing year last year. They had a few factors that were probably in that, with Rats and the boys over there. I'm sure they had a disappointing year, but they always believed in their group, and I think everyone who's watched AFL football closely enough know there's plenty of good players in the St Kilda side, and they're back probably where we thought they'd be 18 months ago.
Again, Paddy Ryder back, so that's Paddy and Rowan Marshall v Sam Hayes. I guess that's probably his big, huge opportunity.
Yeah, it's a great test. It's a great test for Sam. I mean, if you're going to be an emerging young ruck and you're going to be able to play AFL football, you've got to take on the big challenges, and there's no bigger challenges probably than Marshall and Ryder. We know how good they both can be, so it's a big job for Sam.
I think Connor Rosie, you tried a few different things last week. He looked fantastic in the midfield. Were you pleased with how he sort of adapted to that different type of role?
Well, Tom, it's good to have you back. So it's good to get some great questioning from you. And yes, we were very pleased with Connor Rosie. So, we think he's, Connor's been in the challenge of the team a little bit. The team hasn't been absolutely flying, and we've needed to use him in different spots at times. And then our preferred spot, the last couple of weeks, we've also been able to get him around the ball, and he's added to us as a team. So we're optimistic around, as we always have been, around what the younger group of midfielders that we've got coming through.
Is it as simple as, I guess, Robbie Gray being back that has allowed Connor to not be small forward and go into the midfield a bit more?
Yeah, well, it's not too simple, but it's part of the reason. But also Kane Farrell back in the team last week as well, who can play high half forward. So you get some consistency. It's about Travis being able to play some high half forward time for us as well. So getting your team back obviously helps you play people where you'd like to play them. But then getting your team into some form also helps.
Jeremy played his best game. Looks like he's been getting a bit of the ball, but finally got some scoreboard reward.
Yeah, he finished his work probably as much as anything. He managed to get goals. He's had scoring shots in his other games that he's played, but he hasn't probably been as accurate as Jeremy typically is. So he actually kicked some goals, which is really good. Along with Todd and George together, Mitch, they're pretty damaging three when they get together.
Considering scoring's going to be at a premium, do you feel you unlocked that answer last week by getting more and more goals from your players? Or
yeah, well, footy's a week-by-week thing, isn't it? Last week it looked like it was going okay. It's looked okay a couple of times this year, but the trick is to be consistent with it and not rely on one or two people. The team needs to, as I said before, the team probably needs to score somewhere around 80 points to win this game of football, and how the team does that is what's probably the secret more than the two or three people in front.
Do we expect to see, I guess, Travis Smoke playing a bit more as a half forward going forward this season?
No, not too much more. I wouldn't have thought than what he's currently been doing for us this year. He gets his time, as does Ollie. They all get some time in our forward line, but it's just a matter of mixing and matching, and it particularly becomes down to the day, what's going on in the day, what players having the influence you want them to have. So it's where, as coaches, we can help and guide them.
Yes, Steve, look to put Connor and Zach in the midfield together a bit more. I know Zach was leading up in the game last.
Yeah, and that was the start of last week. They were there last week. They were there against Carlton together. They've been there together throughout this year already, but we've noticed them a little bit in the last couple of weeks based on our performance. And our performance has certainly looked a little better. So people recognise where they've been a little bit more. And yes, Connor's the change. He's certainly spending more minutes in the midfield.
Can we do an update on Mackenzie, Dixon, Fantasia?
Yeah, I can. I'm optimistic, and that hasn't always been the case. On particularly Dixon and Fantasia moving along quickly. We're showing some really promising stuff going through there. So whether that's 2-3 weeks further, I don't know exactly, but I think it's getting closer. And Trent's 3 weeks into surgery. He's probably about another 3 to 4 weeks himself. So they're all coming, but there's just a little bit still.
Did they find more of Mackenzie than was expected? Because
no,
was it always going to be that long?
Well, it was like Cleary's surgery. Cleary got back in 4. Sometimes with a knee you can get back in 4. Sometimes you can get 6 to 7. Depends on how they react, with what happens after the surgery.
I expect Fantasia to be the first back between Jim and Dixon.
I don't know. It's a race. It's a genuine race right now, I reckon. So it's, as I said, I've got some optimism around them both coming back. Time frames are a little bit outside my control until they continue to build.
It must give you a bit of heart too as a coach, knowing that soon you have your award on paper, pre-season best 22 would have been.
Yeah, there's some challenges with that because they've been interrupted and disrupted with their pre-season preparation, but certainly helps, and it builds pressure from the players in the team and from players out of the team, so that certainly all helps, and ideally they're both significant players in our best team.
I think the club said that the target was before the bye. Is that AFL, so do you have to go back to pre-sample for a couple of weeks probably? Just
depends on where he's at. I don't think we'll be spending too much time with Charlie in the sample, but we will if we have to.
It's on, I guess, with Aaron Phillips coming to Port Adelaide, do you see a situation where she might join your coaching staff? I think the AFL's looking at, encouraging more female coaches. It's great.
First, it's great to get the Phillips name back playing at Port Adelaide, which is fantastic. I mean, we all know the history of the club and Greg, and it's been a fantastic name at our footy club, and to have Erin come back and join the ladies program is a great result for our footy club. And yes, Erin's expertise, she's got world sport expertise, so you would be mad and foolish not to want to tap into some of that expertise.